I'm Chris Kelly, founder and CEO of KnowledgePay Incorporated, and welcome to this episode of Solving Real HR Problems Using Compensation Software. In this episode, we're going to be focused in on a case study where we were able to use KnowledgePay compensation software to help solve real problems related to off-cycle pay increases in one organization. These are the pay increases not given out through their merit review process, but rather for things like promotions and transfers, and in some cases market adjustments. What we're going to be able to demonstrate for you in the slides ahead is both the business case as well as demonstrate the actual software, is how we were able to use KnowledgePay software to implement better controls as well as better information for managers to make more intelligent pay decisions in these off-cycle increases that they were awarding. So let's sit back and look at how we were able to solve a real HR problem using compensation software from KnowledgePay.
To start us off on this case study of off-cycle compensation administration, I thought it'd be good to spend a little time on the backdrop and what is the organizational context. We were working with a very large organization that was geographically dispersed, a little over 23,000 employees nationwide. They were spending in a typical year the annual base salaries of just over $1 billion of, again, annual base salaries. In the 2 years prior to our involvement here, they had gone through a merit increase process, and they had a merit budget of 4.0%. This organization had a very well managed performance and merit increase process with a strong focus on performance management, getting good differentiation in ratings as well as the increases. They also embraced the calibration process, so there was a lot of oversight to the sizes of increases that were being administered to people throughout the organization. However, in both of those years, the company had also experienced an additional 2.0% of their base annual salaries that was being administered in off-cycle pay increases. That amounted to about $21 million each year. They had very loose guidelines and controls in place, and there was very limited, actually no ability to really do any sort of reporting and analysis on what was happening with these off-cycle types of increases. When we got engaged in the project, the senior leadership did actually make the commitment that they were still fully embracing the idea of promotion from within and the idea of having internal career opportunities as a big part of their organizational culture, and they wanted to continue supporting that as part of their employment value proposition. They also supported the idea of having pay increases for those moves for promotions and transfers as appropriate. They were very uncomfortable, though, with the lack of knowledge that they had about how, when, why, and where those increases were occurring throughout the year. What we're going to do now is we'll log into the KnowledgePay application. What we're going to be seeing, though, is actually demo company information and not the real case that we were working on. Obviously, we need to protect the confidentiality of this particular organization, but we can demonstrate the same features and functions that were used in that particular scenario. Now that I've logged into the KnowledgePay application, I want to very quickly show you how we've been able to use the software to help with the off-cycle increases. On this listing in front of me is a listing of all the employees in the organization, but I want to quickly find a particular distribution center supervisor who's being promoted to a DC level manager. Elizabeth Cazares is being promoted at this time, and so when I click on her name, we have some basic demographic information and some data about where she fits within her current job. But for the purposes of the off-cycle increase, what we've put in place is a total compensation planning worksheet. When I click on that link, on the left-hand side, we're seeing some basic data about her current arrangements, what job she's in, the annual rate, and so on. And then on the right-hand side, now we have the proposed job and pay actions. So as a very first step, what we wanted to do is provide some standardized guidelines and communicate those things out to the organization. So just by having definitions that can be readily available at the time that the HR and the line manager are working on this type of promotion or adjustment, they can see what is the definition, what are the sizes of the guidelines for the sizes of increases, as well as what are some rationale as to when do we do small increases, when do we do large increases within that range of the guidelines. So in this case, we're promoting Elizabeth to the DC Center Manager, and when I select that job, what comes up on the screen then is the market data that's associated with this job. So I can now look at her current rate of pay relative to the market data for this new job, and I can see that I don't need to do a 15% increase, because anecdotally what had happened in the past was, because the guidelines had always said 0 to 15, anybody that got promoted always just got 15%. But now we have more intelligence to be able to make a better informed decision at this time. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and drop in an 8% proposed increase, and let's see what happens with that. When I click on the preview action form, what's going to come up then is, again, on the left hand side, current job information, and on the right hand side now, what is the proposed action. This 8% increase amounts to a $65,745 base pay amount, but we're also seeing then the impact of the incentive target, which is a much higher target incentive percentage. So how does that calculate out for the total cash comp? We're also seeing that this job is also eligible for the long-term incentive program. So from a total reward standpoint, that 8% base pay adjustment amounted to a 25% increase to total rewards. We're also able to easily see where does she fall now with the current pay range, minimum, midpoint, maximum, as well as the market data 25th, 50th, and 75th percentiles. And finally, where does she fall relative to the peers that are in that distribution center manager job. We also provided special comp action information. She received a project bonus earlier this year. And then we also allow for workflowing and approval authorities. So the statement can be generated as I have it shown here as a PDF, or it can also be just all routed electronically and stored within KnowledgePay. And when we store all the data within KnowledgePay, we're able to generate real-time management reporting so that the organization knows when and why and where increases are happening for these off-cycle adjustments. As we saw from looking at the application inside KnowledgePay, it was a very simple solution. However, we were able to achieve some very significant results. In the first year alone, we were able to reduce the amount of off-cycle adjustments by 10%. That amounted to a $1.9 million savings to the organization. All that happened while we were still promoting and transferring. In fact, we had a 3% increase in the number of promotions and transfers that were happening. Based on that $1.9 million savings and the cost, that was over a 3,700% return on investment in the first year alone. Very significant results for the organization. It also had benefit to the organization for increased planning and analysis capabilities, as we mentioned earlier. And finally, that statement that we were looking at also could have been modified. So if we took off the incumbent information, that same or similar worksheet can be used to communicate the pay action that's being delivered to the individual employee, because we know that pay transparency leads to greater employee engagement. So the conclusion, again, having powerful and intuitive compensation software helps improve the efficiency and effectiveness of the HR. In this case, it really facilitated the ability to HR to be a strategic business partner, and nothing says business partner like delivering 3,700% return on investment for your human capital expenses. If you'd like to learn more about how KnowledgePay can help you with off-cycle types of adjustments, please contact us via email, or telephone, or visit us on the web at www.knowledgepay.com. I'm Chris Kelly, and I look forward to the next edition of the series, Solving Real HR Problems Using Compensation Software.